Hello and welcome to the Beyond Podcast.
We're back.
My name is Steven.
James Ward here.
How you doing today, James?
Man, I'm great. Big day today. Got some big meetings after we record the old pod.
Good.
Excited about seeing what God's got in store. Could be some exciting stuff for the future of Beyond and a handful of other programs and ministries as well. So,
Well, I'm excited about that as well.
man.
I think it'll be good. How was your week?
It was great. You know, we're doing a push-up challenge. I think I might have mentioned that on one of the previous episodes, but we're in week 3 now.
Okay.
And today is 240 push-ups is what we've worked up to. So
How many have you gotten in today?
0.
Gotcha.
So I am back end loading the day today, but I've got a lot of push-ups to do. So if you see me disappear off camera for a minute, I might just be dropping and
Listen,
hammering out some push-ups.
I'll handle the.
You can carry on.
What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a topic that I love, that we spend a lot of time talking about with Beyond: leadership.
But not just leadership.
Specifically,
Servant leadership.
yes, servant leadership. So what does it look like to lead effectively in such a way that we are truly serving others? You know, I struggle a little bit, probably no surprise to you, but I struggle a little bit with the term servant leadership just because it's so overused and was such a buzzword for, a decade or so. Everything was centered around servant leadership.
When was that?
Like the mid 2000s, like 2005 to 2015,
Okay.
maybe even into 2020. Just the whole idea of servant leadership was really, really big. And at the end of the day, really what we're talking about is a leadership modeled after Jesus.
Yeah.
After the way that he led. I think the fact that Jesus lived over 2,000 years ago, lived probably into his early 30s, and he inspired the greatest movement the world has ever seen. There are still millions of people around the world that worship him, that follow him. It's there, regardless of where you land, I would even argue, on Jesus as Lord and Savior of your life. I don't know how you argue against Jesus being one of the most effective leaders, that the most effective leader, in my opinion, but that the world has ever seen.
I was doing research for this, and there is a lot of books on servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
In the business world, can I say the world of religion?
Yeah, man.
I was first introduced to it through a book called Learning of Love, A Journey Towards Servant Leadership by Bill Turner. You know Bill Turner?
Never heard of him.
I hadn't either. But he helped start Synovus Bank.
Okay.
I read that book. Gosh, it's probably been 20 years ago. And I remember I really enjoyed it. But as I was thinking about servant leadership, and I was trying to understand what that meant and like what I think it means in my life and how do I understand it, when I really started thinking about it, I think I had a view that was not accurate.
Okay.
When I was thinking of servant leadership, my instinct was someone who's a servant leader, they're a little quieter, they're a little smaller, they don't impose, they don't take up space, they are more in the back leading.
So what I hear you say is more of they're taking the social or they're taking the physical and positional posture of a servant and then managing to influence from that posture.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So Leadership so the framework that I had was leadership, servant leadership, not asserting power, denying power,
Mm.
right? And choosing to be in that posture of a servant. As I did more research, and specifically, there's one story that I read that I spent a lot of time on, changed completely the way I thought about it.
I like that because I don't have that view of servant leadership. Although I think it can be that, if that makes sense.
You mean that it can be that, meaning
you can influence and lead from a posture of I am the lowest on the totem pole. I see myself from a posture of like total humility, in the sense of like I am the lowest on the totem pole in this room. I'm going to assume that posture, and then I'm going to try to lead and influence from that place. I do think that's possible. And I do think that in cases where that is your position, that's probably the right approach.
Mm-hmm.
Not to just take the approach or the position that says, well, because I'm the new guy, because I'm the lowest on the totem pole, because I'm the least powerful person in the room, I'm just going to shut up, be quiet, and sit in the corner. I don't think that's the right approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think the approach is, hey, lead, influence where you are, how you can do that. Look for opportunities, look for ways that you can do that, regardless of how elevated your position is.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned something earlier, and I think I kind of misspoke. I want to go back. My framework, and I think you'll be able to jump off of this.
Mm-hmm.
My old framework was that leadership equals asserting power, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like that is that is leadership.
Yeah.
And service is denying power or abdicating power to somebody else and deciding to shrink back.
Yeah.
And I think that's how our culture and the world in general sees power, or sees leadership, right? As asserting power in a specific way, more dominating. Would you agree?
Yes. I think that is what is mostly celebrated and rewarded as it pertains to leadership. Meaning, you look in the political realm, right? And that is what, especially of late, that is what is celebrated politically, or what is hated politically. But either way, that attitude has landed in a position of the highest power.
Yeah.
At least for our country and for the world, in terms of on planet Earth. And then I think about like, well, who are the leaders, who are the influencers that get the most attention, that get the most clicks? It's like, what's those people that are assertive and powerful and are asserting power and wanting to claim and grab more and more power.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
There's a word that I think that was coming up multiple times when I was studying and researching this, and that would be authority. How do you think authority plays into leadership in the way the world works and in the way that we want to talk about servant leadership and how that differentiates?
I don't know. When I think of leadership, I don't think of authority. I think of influence.
Okay.
So influence is the word that I would use underneath leadership. not authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to think about authority and the implications of that on leadership and vice versa. I do think in terms of there is a positional authority
Mm-hmm.
that people have, and generally someone who is in a position of leadership has a high degree of positional authority,
Mm-hmm.
which comes with a title, that comes with a position, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the CEO, I'm the director, I'm the president, I'm whatever. The fact that I have that title, I'm doctor, because those letters are behind my name, I have a level of authority that comes with that position. And so certainly that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly there is a component of you can have authority as a result of that position or that expertise, education, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the other end of the continuum, and they don't necessarily have to be they don't have to be opposed, but on the other end the other side of the coin is moral authority.
Yes.
And that isn't dependent on position. Like some of the people that I know in my life that have the highest level of authority as it pertains to their influence in my life don't have a position. Their position would be retired, or their position would be middle manager, father, husband. But man, they have the way that they live, their integrity demands a high degree of moral authority. And so when they speak into my life, I listen, I pay attention. And so that I think is how I would look at authority in terms of leadership.
Do you need some kind of authority to lead?
I don't think so. I think most people wait. Let me not even speak for most people. Early in my younger years, I would wait for someone to give me authority, and then I would lead. And I would think that I needed somebody in authority over me to give me authority to lead. And as I have grown and matured, I no longer hold that view. I don't need anybody to give me authority to lead. Now, there are areas where if I step in and lead, I'm undermining somebody else's authority, and I don't want to do that. That's not good. That's not a good career move. That's not a good community relationship building move. And so I want to be intentional not to do that, but I can still lead and I can still yield influence.
I have been circling this idea of authority.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, I think for most of my life, was in that same boat of what you were talking about, as waiting to be given authority before maybe stepping into the authority that's kind of already been given to me. Specifically with kind of what we're doing now with Beyond and the different areas and different things in my life, where there's been a sense of, do I have authority to step into something and lead? And where I have shrunk back a little bit from that because thinking about, wanting to be a servant leader and having maybe misdiagnosed what that actually is.
Yeah.
And so as I was thinking about it, I take the dog on a walk every day, and it's a time where I can think through things. We usually go out for 45 minutes, an hour, and go walking. And so the past few days, I've really been thinking about it. And there's a story that I'm going to share from John 13, that changed everything for me. Okay.
All right. Awesome. Let's hear it.
Okay. So this is John 13. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read the part that I think helped change the framework around servant leadership for me.
Okay.
And so this is John 13, and this is when Jesus washes the disciples' feet. Okay. So now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, when the devil had already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. And he laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he went on and washed the disciples' feet. So something struck me at the beginning of this. I wondered, why did John put that? Because it just seems like information. He lists certain things out, right? So, he knew that his hour had come. He knew that Judas was going to betray him, that the Father had given him things, that he came from the Father, he's going back from the Father. That's the first 5 verses. And so I was like, why did John put that in there? And so I did some extra reading on that, and what struck me about it was that it seemed as if Jesus had such a confidence. John showed us that Jesus had so much confidence in who he was, where he came from, what he was supposed to do. And from that point of confidence and knowing, he chose to serve the disciples. Right? It says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands. That means he literally has power and authority over
all things,
everything. Everything. And you go back, and if you refer back to John 1, which talks about Jesus from the beginning, the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's from the beginning of time, right? So, and it said all things into his hands, and he had come from God and was going back to God. So he had the confidence of like, yeah, I know why I'm here. I came from God, and in a few days, I'm going back to God. Or I guess the next day or a couple of days after. And he chose, knowing those things, to willingly kneel before his disciples, who are all just a bunch of guys who didn't know which way was up. Peter, the next night, gonna deny him, right? Judas was going to betray. Judas literally betrayed him. And so all of these men that are going to flee or run or scared are going to hide themselves and lock themselves away after Jesus dies. Jesus, knowing all of that and knowing who he is, decided to kneel down before them and wash their dirty feet. And that showed me that Jesus truly knew his identity and who he was. And out of knowing his true identity, he was able to, that's where the real authority and the real power came from. And that's where real leadership can come from. And and when I think about authority, he knew he had all authority in heaven and on earth. And he was able to step into a servant position and care and love for those around him. And I think that's pretty incredible. And I think that right there, just those few 5 verses gave me a whole new perspective on what it means to be a servant leader. Because knowing your identity and who you are first and foremost, I think is having that identity gives us the authority, meaning Jesus knew he was God's son, knew what his mission was, and that gave him that authority to actually move into leadership. But he didn't use it in a way that was controlling or dominant or trying to bend people to his own will. What he did was he served people.
Mm-hmm.
He was so confident in who he was, he could kneel before everybody instead of having everyone kneel before him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, as I was thinking about it and wrestling through, well, has God given me authority? I was thinking about me, but this is true in general. I think to you and to those who are believers and children of God, has he given us authority? And if we are children of God, yes, he has.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in particular, as I look at what he is, the opportunities he has given me, he has given me authority in many different places. And instead of shrinking back and choosing to stay in the shadows and taking more of a fake humble posture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Knowing who I am in my identity will give me the confidence to step into those places of authority and lead like Jesus led. What do you say to that?
I love that, man. I really do. I think that's super important, super insightful. You know, my personal experience is that nothing will sabotage a leader more than pride, more than ego. And so as you're talking, I'm thinking through, like, there is a being confident in who you are, who God has created you to be, your position in the kingdom, right? Being confident of that allows us to serve or to lead out of a place of service. The antithesis of that, the opposite of that, is you're insecure, you're not confident in who you are, and so you are dependent, you are relying on your ego to take or to earn you authority. And man, when you try to lead others out of a place of insecurity, which I would argue that wherever there is pride, a destructive pride, if you could peel back that pride and see what sits underneath it, it's always insecurity. And so leading from a place of pride and insecurity, it's like that is the ultimate sabotage of your leadership. Leading from a place of confidence in who you are, who God created you to be, the calling that he has put on you, that allows you to take that posture. Like, you got nothing to prove. Who are you trying to impress? Like, Jesus is not trying to impress these yahoos that he knows are going to deny him, who's already betrayed. Like, he's not trying to impress those guys. He's, to your point, like, he's confident in who he is and why he is here. And so he kneels down and he serves even those that are going to betray him, even those he knows he can't trust. He's going to serve them because he's going to leverage the influence and the authority that he has for the sake of the people around him. And that's ultimately what servant leadership is.
Yeah. I like how I have I had this written down, the world's model of what leadership is, and I have first is prove yourself. Once you prove yourself, you gain power, and then you serve if you want.
Yeah.
But with what Jesus shows is you receive your identity,
Uh-huh.
knowing where your identity comes from, and then you accept the authority that's been given to you, and then you can choose service.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know, I heard Andy Stanley one time at a leadership conference. He said two things that have always stuck with me, these two quotes. And I think about this frequently,
Okay.
these two. The first one is, he said, leadership is stewardship. It's temporary and you're accountable. Okay, so think of like the your ability, the influence that you yield, you are to steward that. Just like the resources that God gives you, he doesn't give you for you. He gives you them to steward on his behalf. Same thing is true with influence, right? If God's granted you influence, his call on you is to steward that influence well. And it's temporary. You're not going to have it forever. Don't put your identity in it. Don't get too comfortable with it. Steward it well, and you're going to be held accountable for how you steward that influence. That's a sobering reality that I think a lot of us forget in positions of leadership, right? I think that the tendency not to steward well, the tendency to think this is mine and it's always going to be mine and I'm accountable to no one, that tendency generally comes, I think, with a positional authority. You get the raise, you've got the promotion, you started the company, now you're the CEO. That's the way Satan is going to tempt you and pull you towards, right?
Yeah.
The second thing he said is that, I'm losing it. So leadership is a stewardship. It's temporary and you're accountable. And then he also said, at any time when you look around the room and you find that you're the most powerful person in that room, what do you do? What do you do? And his charge, he would say the biblical charge is, you figure out how to leverage that power to serve everybody else in the room. So what are you going to do? The way he said it is, what do you do when it dawns on you that you're the most powerful person in the room? You leverage that power to serve the other people in that room. And you think about the example that you gave with Jesus. Absolutely most powerful guy in the room. He knew it. John, in John 13, sets the stage to make sure that we all understand as we read this, that Jesus was the most powerful man in the room, and he knew he was the most powerful man in the room. So what did he do? Did he give a big speech? Did he beg for everybody's commitment? Nope. He leveraged it to serve the people in that room. Man, that's powerful. Like, that is powerful.
It's so contrary to what the examples we see of power and leadership now.
Yep.
It's completely contrary.
It's upside down. I mean, that's what one of the most amazing, fascinating things to me about reading the scriptures and understanding what I have been able to understand, which is probably a thimbleful about the kingdom of God, is when people say it's the upside down kingdom. I totally see that. It's like, it's just inverted. It's upside down.
Yeah.
You could almost say, hey, what does the world celebrate as a great leader? And just do the opposite. And you'd probably be pretty in aligned with Scripture.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Do you think people would respond well to that?
To what?
To if a leader a world leader chose to lead in that way, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to narrow it down just in the United States. Do you think we could have someone in political power that could do that now and people would respond both from the left and the right? Or do you think they would be, what faults do you think people would find in them?
Well, I think people will always, I mean, they found fault in
Yeah.
Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they will find fault. I do think it would be effective.
Mm-hmm.
I think the principles of Scripture, the principles of leadership in Scripture, are effective always. And I'd love to debate. Like if somebody feels differently on that, I'd love to have that conversation. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I see, they're principles and they stand true. And the reason we will probably never see that is because the person who truly has that perspective and who truly leads from that place of like a confident humility that wants to put others first is so appalled by the political system that we have allowed to fester and rot and just decompose into a cesspool in our country. They don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Like you almost have to be arrogant, insecure, narcissistic to even want to enter in to that cesspool. And so that's the reason I think, well, we probably won't see it. Not because it wouldn't work or it wouldn't be effective, but because it's the very environment, the very ecosystem in which our political world lives in and operates in is just so appalling to anybody that has those principles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
What do you think? You think it would be effective?
I think I don't think they would be able to get anything done with the people that we have in power now. I think it would be so jarring to each side that they wouldn't know what to do with it, and they would be afraid of it, and they would have to figure out a way to shut it down. Even if the people got on board, both sides got on board. You know, there's extremes on both sides, so you know some people would think he's too this, and some people would think he's too that, but I think I'm under the conviction that the majority of people would see that and say, this is the way that we would want to go. But I don't think they'd be able to get anything done with the current system that we have. Now, I'm not with the people that we have in our current system. Some things would have to change.
Yeah. You said something a few minutes ago that I'd like to revisit.
Humility?
Kind of.
Okay.
You used the term when you said your previous paradigm or perspective around servant leadership was leading from the back.
Yes.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Choosing not to assert a certain type of dominant power.
And do you think that in your reshaped perspective of servant leadership, how does that change your view of leading from the back?
first I would choose to maybe not, I don't know if the term leading from the back even fits there anymore. Maybe it does. But I would choose to speak up and say something even if it looked like I was asserting some sort of power.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's how to say it or not.
Yeah.
But I would choose to speak up on certain things and walk into that, whatever that authority and power I've been given in a situation. Now, leading from the back, I still think there is a bit of negative connotation in my mind to what it looks like to lead in the back.
Why? What would be negative? What would be wrong with leading from the back? Does it feel like it's not leading because you're in the back?
Yeah, there's a piece of that. And yet I know that's not true because there are times where on most of our trips or different events that I've done, if I am leading, I'm usually in the very back. I'm physically in the back.
Yep.
And so why am I in the back? Well, the reasons why I'm in the back is I want to see everybody.
Yep.
I want to see what people are doing. I want to see how we'll take a backpacking trip. How are they doing physically? Right? Are they stumbling? Are they falling down? Are they not able to keep a good pace? How are they doing mentally and emotionally? Is their head down when they're hiking? Are they not engaging in conversation? Any number of things. I want to be able to see them. I want to be able to see them. And then also if I'm in the back, I'm able to say things and people can probably hear me much better than they could if I'm out front and I'm facing away from everybody. They're not necessarily going to be able to hear me as well. So those are some of the things that I think about when I'm leading from the back that we can probably unpack.
Well, the reason I ask is many years ago at this point, I guess, I had taken a position as the executive director for a fairly large, I mean, at least in this world that I come from, career-wise, a fairly large ministry that does a lot of work in the Middle East, in war-torn communities, works with refugees of war. Amazing organization, amazing ministry. You guys doing unbelievable things there. And I was hired on to come in and be the guy. Like, I was the executive director. I was in charge. And I came in, and the founder who was there before me was really prides himself on being an excellent leader, a leader of leaders kind of mentality, and was very much a lead from the front type of person. I came in and I had have a very different approach to leadership than him. And I remember after I was there 1 year, 12 months, the board of directors said, "Hey, we want to do a 360 review on you." Which, by the way, just to go on the record, I hate 360 reviews.
360 review, meaning you go across the whole company and the company.
Exactly. Meaning they are going to ask people over you, under you, parallel to you. Like, they're going to go around and they're going to get feedback from everybody, basically anybody who has direct interaction with you and invite critique and feedback.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Not because like, oh, I've got something to hide. Anytime, anyway, it's probably anytime you invite somebody to anonymously give feedback on someone who is in authority over them, you're going to get feedback. And if somebody doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to come tell you, I have a problem with the whole idea. But anyways,
I see.
They want to do it. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. No problem. And they went and they did 360 review. They came back, and the member of the board that was responsible in facilitating this was giving me the feedback. And he said, James, the feedback is, as we've kind of culminated and gone through it and summarized it all, is that you're leading, the sense we get is kind of a leading from the back. And he said it like that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally, we literally spent the next hour talking about how to correct that. And I was new enough to having that level of leadership, and I was young enough in my career that I just assumed, you know what, he's right. And I need not lead from the back. And what I've since come to realize is that's bullcrap, man. You can lead effectively from the front. I believe that. I also believe and know that you can lead effectively from the back. Mm-hmm. And the way God has wired me as a leader is far more of a lead from the back type leader than it is lead from the front. I want to maintain a view, kind of a battlefield view of what's going on. And I want to be able to relate and have face-to-face conversations with the people that I'm leading. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be up on a podium looking down at them, asking them to report up. That's just not my MO. Mm-hmm. I am I want to give people the opportunity to work their way in a path that they see that is right without stopping them every time they take a step to ask them why they're going that direction. These were all examples, characteristics that were given to me of well, you seem kind of hands off. Yeah, I am kind of hands off. I trust my people. And if I can't trust them and they prove that to me, then I'll address it. And so when you said that a little while ago of that idea of leading from the back, it's man, I think part of the misconception of leadership is it's assertive, it's authoritarian, it's from the front. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it needs to be. But I also think there are a lot of us that can lead effectively from the back, and that is absolutely okay.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, and I was hearing your story, I was seeing different leadership positions I've had throughout my life. And I think I gravitated towards leading from the back. Mm-hmm. Now, I think partly out of fear, and then partly because maybe that is a way that is more of a natural way that I want to lead, mm-hmm. in the way that you described as far as looking at everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to move away from trying to recognize, what was any fear of leading from the front? Why would that be scary? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of answers to that. And as I was thinking about it, though, when there were times where I needed to be out front, I would go out front. Mm-hmm. And so with leading from the back, that should be a whole podcast.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that could go into that.
Well, because it begs the question to me is like, okay, well, what is the role
Yes.
of a leader? You know, whether we're
Mhm.
out on a trek, whether it's a platoon out on the battlefield, whether it's a leadership team or a team in a corporation working to hit certain deadlines and achieve certain outcomes towards a project. All right. Well, what is the role of the leader? And you know, I would say primarily it's to set vision, hold people to a standard, and make sure that the people that you are leading are good. Like, I don't mean good like they're performing well, like they're
Right.
that they're okay. Like you morale,
Mhm.
you're making sure that they are healthy. Doesn't really make sense, but I think you know what I mean, right?
In our
Like,
context, I know.
yeah, like you're keeping your eye on them and you're checking in on them. You're encouraging them.
Mhm.
You are making sure that they are good and that they are feel cared for, appreciated, and that they're motivated.
Mhm.
Let your managers manage their daily activities, their individual workloads, like all that kind of stuff. But you can set vision from the back. You can set and maintain a high organizational standard, values from the back. You can, I would argue, more effectively, to your point, like you can actually see people, you can actually watch how they're interacting with each other, figure out where tension points are. That if you were always looking out front, always doing this the whole time, you'd never see that. You would have no idea what's going on behind you. So I think again, I think you can do it from the front, and I think you can do it from the back. I don't think it's an either or. It's how are you uniquely wired? How has God uniquely gifted you to lead? Because it's obvious he hasn't gifted us all the same as it pertains to leadership.
Mhm.
Yet I do think he's given all of us the ability to build, steward, grow influence.
I think we should, in the future, do a leading from the back
Podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Be fun to dive into it. Jocko Willink has a lot to say about that, which is
really?
interesting because if you don't know who Jocko is, he's a retired SEAL. He runs a huge consulting firm now, Echelon Front, but he does he wrote Extreme Ownership, which is a great leadership book. He's written several books, done a lot, but he actually, because when you think about the military, you typically think of the leader. I'm the first one off the helicopter and the last one back on. And I'm and it's all this, like, you think of an out front point man
Mhm.
leadership. And he actually argues for a leadership from the back perspective and
Yeah.
makes a pretty compelling case for it. So you could call him, get
I'll
him on the
call
podcast.
Yeah.
We'll interview
I'll shoot
Jocko.
him a text after this.
Awesome. You heard it here
Um,
first.
To wrap this up,
Okay.
For me, learning that servant leadership is not about becoming less. It's about knowing and being grounded in the identity of who you are and choosing to walk into that authority and to serve others
Yeah.
without, with love, and to kneel before everybody, just like Jesus did.
Yeah.
And the Father raised him up.
That's right.
Great.
To me,
Yeah.
if you want a case study
Mm-hmm.
in leadership,
Okay.
read the book of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah, to me, is an incredible example of what it means to effectively lead. And as you follow along, as you journey with Nehemiah through his project to rebuild the wall in Jerusalem. You see his motivation, why he decided to do this. Nobody gave him, like, he ultimately got authority, but he actually went and asked for the authority to go to rebuild this from the king at great personal risk to himself. Not because he just had this this unbelievable desire to go rebuild a wall, but because his heart was broken for his people. And so the motivation of his leadership comes from a place of a broken heart for his people. And then you see how he engages the city, how he mobilizes people, how he cares for people, helps to protect people from impending harm of those that profit and benefit from the wall being down. And ultimately, the way that this project to rebuild the wall ultimately leads to a spiritual revival within the city. The way he cares for the poor, it's phenomenal. And it is I will frequently read through the book of Nehemiah. It's one of my favorite books, probably my favorite book in the Old Testament, one of my favorite books of the scripture. And
For that reason?
For that reason. Nehemiah really inspires me. I connect with Nehemiah on like a heart level. And so I encourage you, if you want to lead effectively, if you want to grow in your leadership, one of the ways we do that is by modeling, finding people who are doing it well or who have done it well and watching what they do and studying and learning from others. And Nehemiah is a great place to start.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time to wrap it up.
Let's do it, man.
Appreciate everyone who's listening and watching, and we would appreciate it if you subscribe if you like what we're doing, and leave some comments.
Yeah. Share the episode with a friend.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. All right.
All right, we're out.
We're out.